Hello and welcome to our tutorial video where we're going to talk about changing the order of custom indicator inputs and changing default values. So let's just show you what we mean. So we've got a custom indicator here. If you just drop it on the chart, you get there's like a list of inputs. So we're talking about changing the order of these inputs and some of the default values as well. Now obviously you may ask the question why would you want to do this? And the answer is in our software the big feature of it is it allows you to capture custom indicators and to combine them together and to produce a signal when multiple indicators are in agreement, and usually you get better trading when you do that. And one of the inputs there is you can change the custom indicator inputs and put something in and change the values, perhaps change how the indicator is calculating. If you leave it blank, then it'll just use the default values, but if you want to change values, then you need to put them in here and you need to comma separate them. So let's imagine the situation where what you want to do with this custom indicator is you want to capture the indicator, but you want to turn off its alerts, because at the moment the default here is pop-up alerts on. So that means you're going to keep getting alerts from the indicator, which is going to confuse you a little bit because you really want the alert from us, from our software, which is when multiple indicators are in agreement. So you really would want to turn this off. The only snag is at the moment you'd have to specify all of these, because you have to go in order from top down to the last one that you want to change. You'd have to specify all of these, comma separated. This one's quite a little bit tricky because it's like a list, so you've got to sort of say, well, the first one's 0, the second one's 1, and so on. So it's all a bit awkward really. Now what it's possible to do is if you have the source code, which is the MQ5 file for MetaTrader 5 and the MQ4 file for MetaTrader 4, then it's possible to actually change the order of these inputs and actually even change the default value, and that's what we're going to show you in this video. So let's get cracking. So what we need to do, so if you have got the source code, then down in MetaTrader this little icon here will be like this yellow colour. If it's grey, then that means you haven't got the source code and you won't be able to do this. You'd have to specify all the inputs up into the one you want to change. But here we've got the source code, and what we can do is select it and do a right click, and then there's this modify here. So if I click that, and what that will do is load up MetaTrader's, it's called Meta Editor, and it allows you to edit the way the custom indicator works. Now don't be too frightened, I know you may not be a programmer, don't worry, it's really straightforward, because we're not needing to do too much, we just want to change the order of the inputs. And the file will typically look like this. You'll get some comments at the top which are shown in a grey colour, so you can ignore those. You might get a few of these hashtag property things, just ignore those. And it's really when you get down to these lines that say either the word extern or the word input, and if it's MetaTrader 5 it will be input, and then for MetaTrader 4 it can either be the word extern or the word input, and these are those inputs that you saw earlier on listed in the code. So to change the order, to make this pop-up alerts come first, all we need to do is a bit like if you imagine editing a Word document, is just select the line like you would do if you were in Microsoft Word or something. Do your typical Control X and just do like a cut. Then just go up to the top of the list where you see the first one mentioned, and then do your Control V to paste in. And that's it. You've changed the order. And then all we need to do is to do this compile. And what that does is convert this source code, say like your MQ4, into an EX4, and that's what MetaTrader actually runs with. So we do the compile, and that will, in a fraction of a second should do the compile. And now if we go back to MetaTrader proper, and if we now just again try and put the indicator on the chart, we'll see that pop-up alerts has come to the top. So now in our software you'd be able to just go in, and when you select it you just then can just put in 0 to turn off the alerts. Great. So that makes things a lot easier. Now what you can also do, take things a little bit further, go back to modify, is you can actually change the default value. So at the moment the default value is true where the alerts are on. So the format is you get either this word external or input, you get what we call the type, so it could be Boolean. For that list of the price to use, that was we call it enumeration, but usually it's pretty straightforward. It's just a type. You've got the actual input name, equals, and then the value, and then a semicolon. So all we need to do to set so that the alerts are off by default is just change that true to false. So you put in false and then do a compile, and now if you try to just add the indicator, which allows you to see, if you see now the default is false. So you can just use that then just to change those default inputs, because what it is, it uses up a bit more processor power. If you've got to specify lots of inputs comma separated, it just uses a little bit more CPU, so it's better to just keep that list as short as possible. And if it is just about changing a default value, then if you can do that brilliantly, and that'll just save that bit of CPU time. Okay, just one extra thing, and let's just go back into here. Imagine you wanted to change the default value for this particular input, and what it is, what's special about it is actually a list. So you can see here it gives you a drop down list of different values. So let's just show you how you would change the default value in the code, because it's a little bit more involved. So you can see that this is the price to use, and we call this an enumeration, and what it is, it allows sort of a selection of different values, and that's the default value, which is the close price. And you may say, well, I want to change that, and the best way really of getting the list to what you can change it to is if you highlight this enumeration here and press F1 on the keyboard, and that will put up this dialog here, and just click display, and what it's going to do is it'll just show you the list of different values that are possible. So we've got the price close, which is what it's by default. So if you wanted to change it to price median, you can see that what you need to do there is put in price median, and it'll like fill it out a little bit for you as well. It'll see that, you know, it'll detect that that's a possibility for that, and you can just press enter. And then when you compile that, you would see now that again the price median as well. And again, if you wanted to change the order of that, if that was one you wanted to perhaps optimize and try different values, you could of course go in, modify, and again you could move that up to the top by just doing the hold Control X and just doing that. And you perhaps want to put that first, compile, and again it's just there now, just at the top. So you can just now, if you wanted to try different values, you'd be able to do that just by selecting there, and you can just try the different values there. And as you know, if you read our manual about setting these inputs, you have to just number them 0 upwards. Okay, so that's I'll let you read the manual on that, but so hopefully that helps a lot. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching. If you've got any questions, please do email us at support@runwisefx.com.